And I give the call to the honourable member for Griffith.
Thanks, Speaker. Question to the Treasurer. Angus Shepherd completed his PhD last year with a HECS debt of $48,000. He was set to pay back around $1,500 of his debt in his next tax return, but with Labor's indexation, his debt will rise by about $2,700. He will end up about $1,000 further in the red. Can the Treasurer justify why Labor thinks it is good to push students further into debt and raise more increasing HECS debt than from changes to the tax on gas corporations?
Order. Members on my right will cease interjecting. Treasurer has the call.
Mr Speaker, it's characteristically dishonest of the member to pretend that there's been some change in the budget on Tuesday night.
Order. The Treasurer will pause. I'd like to hear from the Leader of the Australian. Order. Who's constantly laughing on my right? If it continues, highly disorderly, and you'll be asked to leave without warning. I want to hear from the Leader of the Australian Greens.
Mr Speaker, that is a very clear reflection on a member, and the Treasurer should withdraw.
The Minister for Home Affairs is getting very close to being removed from the chamber. I'm just going to ask the Treasurer to withdraw and continue with his answer.
Withdraw, Mr Speaker.
Order.
I say to the member for Griffith that he should not come into this place and pretend that Tuesday's budget had any changes to the repayment arrangements around HECS debts. At least ask all the questions you want, important questions about the cost of living for students and young people. But don't come in here and pretend you're voting with them. You're voting with them. You're voting with them in the Senate. Mr Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition interjects about arrangements between major parties and the Greens. That's not the best day to do it, did I say to the Leader of the Opposition. Today is not the best day to point that out, the Leader of the Opposition. Those opposite are engaged in an unholy alliance with the Greens to knock off social and affordable housing in the Senate. And so to bring up in this typically ham-fisted way a relationship between a major party and the Greens, today's not the day to do it, my friend. Today's not the day to do it. Now, Mr Speaker.
The Treasurer will pause. The member for Dunkley will leave the chamber. The member for Swan then will withdraw from the chamber. The member Dunkley may say I misheard, but the member for Swan will leave the chamber. Somebody's leaving. Order. There is far too much noise in the chamber. I know everyone is very exercised. I need to be able to hear what the minister is answering the question. I'm going to give a call to the member for Griffith.
Speaker, on relevance, the question was specifically about indexing student debt and why the government justifies it.
I give the call to the Treasurer to ask him to return to the question.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr Speaker, and to the member. The point that I'm making, Mr Speaker, is that the member for Griffith shouldn't come in here and pretend there's been a policy change in the budget when it comes to the repayment of HECS debt. There hasn't. I mean, this is the long-standing arrangement that is applied to the indexation of student debt. And his time would be better spent in this place not making up stories about Tuesday night's budget and voting for a social and affordable housing instead. This is a member who wanders around his electorate pretending he's for social and affordable housing and then comes down here and votes against it. And so when it comes to students, Mr Speaker, when it comes to students and young people, Mr Speaker, I answered this question when the honourable member for Fowler asked it. What this government is doing is backing in students and young people with an increase in Commonwealth rent assistance, with an increase in Austudy and youth allowance and the base rate of JobSeeker. And these are important ways that we demonstrate our support for students and young people, like I told the member for Fowler. Now, I understand that the member for Griffith will get all over his social media feed and pretend that Labor has made some kind of change when it comes to the repayment of HECS debts, but we haven't.